Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, in this DeFi Shaker session in Thailand. And with me in this session, we have two distinguished speakers who we can say are role model for a lot of the Thai DeFi entrepreneurs out there. So Kun Sarawit, who we know as Kun Man, co-founder and CEO of Band Protocol. And the second one is Kun Tascha, or Kun Pan, co-founder and CEO of Alpha Finance. So it's great to have you both here. And so maybe let's start off with a little bit of introduction. Maybe can you introduce a little bit on who you are and how you come across, DeFi project that, you co-found today. So maybe we can start off with Kunman.
Sure. Hi guys. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. First time I think for the bank, actual commercial bank to host a crypto conference, at least here in Thailand. So pretty excited to be here. And hi guys to the audience. In case you didn't know me, my name is Soravis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Band Protocol. Quick background about myself. I'm an engineer by training. So I did computer science at Stanford for my undergrad. That's how I sort of got across Bitcoin, came across Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Sort of fell in love back then. Started working on Band Protocol as a crypto project in 2017. So it's been almost 3 years. Yeah, actually 3 years since that journey. And quickly about Band, I guess, is that we are working on an Oracle solution. And what an Oracle solution is essentially we bridge smart contract or blockchain application, decentralized applications to data outside of the blockchain itself. Because intrinsically, blockchain as it designed, application cannot access any information outside of that natively. And that is a limitation that sort of inhibit a lot of the growth and the usages from many use cases. And that's where we come in and provide a lot of this data to all these applications, including Alpha here.
Okay, thank you. And Kutacha?
Yeah, so nice to be here as well. Thank you for having me, and also for the audience across the world. Also very nice to have you tune in. So a bit of myself. So I came from more of a traditional finance background. I went to UC Berkeley studying economics. And then after that, I did investment banking in San Francisco and then in London. And then after that, I pivoted to join Tencent as a product manager. So, slowly pivoting to more the tech side. And then I used to work at Band Protocol as well, pretty much helping them to expand Band usages across various DeFi products. So pretty much once I look into DeFi protocols and trying to get them on ramp to more Band usages, I realized there are a lot of gaps in DeFi markets, such that it makes so much sense to spin out another project called Alpha Finance Lab with my co-founder Nipun. And a bit about Alpha Finance Lab. So we are, a cross-chain DeFi lab. What that means is we're building a number of DeFi products, which all gonna work together to achieve the overarching theme of maximizing returns while minimizing downside exposure. And we think that's, the ideal financial product suite, right? So right now we have one product live on Ethereum, which is called Alpha Homora. It's focusing on, maximizing returns for users through leveraging functionality. And now we have more than $100 million locked on Alpha Homora within 2 months of launching. So that's a pretty fast track for us. And we have a number of products coming out in pretty near term scale. So I think they're going to be pretty interesting foresight in the future of how Alpha products going to work together to achieve the overarching theme that we're looking to work forward.
Great. Okay, so and maybe if you can share with us a little bit more on, there are a number of DeFi projects out there, right? One can say that there is, every day there's a new DeFi project. So how do you differentiate yourself from other projects who are probably in the similar space? So maybe off with Command first.
Sure. So I guess I can categorize ourselves as DeFi since we power a lot of them, right? As an infrastructure, right? But I guess for us, Number one differentiation, for us is that we actually live on Cosmos, ecosystem, whereas a lot of the solutions are currently on top of Ethereum, right? I mean, you have Chainlink as a dominant player in the industry. You have newer projects like API3, Layer 7 network. A lot of them are coming up. For us, originally we were on Ethereum as well. But we quickly realized the limitation. I think Kane spoke about this as well in the last session, right? About scalabilities and the cost associated with this, right? It's just not Ethereum 1.0 is just not ready for mainstream adoption. It doesn't make any sense for a DeFi project to carry one data point from us and it costs them $100, right? Or in many cases, even more, right? Even more so in dealing the period of high gas fee. So that was something that we quickly realized, and that's why we pivot and sort of migrate away from Ethereum into this Cosmos ecosystem, which sort of allow us to differentiate ourselves among 3-4 different verticals. Right? The first one is definitely the scalabilities. So speed for Cosmos, we are able to supply data in a tune of 5 seconds or even 3 seconds, right? Whereas, I mean, if you're on Ethereum, you're sort of constrained by the block time, you're constrained by all this competing resources that people require, right? And so we are able to serve in a much faster speed, and that's where it come in when we serve projects like, let's say, Mirror, which is like a synthetic protocol on top of Cosmos as well. Require 15-second data update, right, across 20 data set. So that's number one, right? Number two is cost. Again, because we live on our own blockchain on Cosmos, we're able to control the cost aspect much easier than being on Ethereum, where basically it's not under our control, right? And with that, we're able to reduce costs of over 80% compared to what would have happened, right, if we are just on top of Ethereum. Again, allow us to serve a lot more projects, allow us to be much more economical, among these different DeFi and also among different blockchain. And then the last part, I think, which a lot of people do not really emphasize as much, is decentralization. But to me, it's probably one of the most important, right? As an oracle, again, we feed data into blockchain, and that means it dictates the behavior of the smart contract itself, right? If we feed incorrect information, that has potential, impact to sort of almost destroy the project, right? Let's say in the case of Maker, if you cannot update the price of the collateral in time, then essentially you will have bad debt, right? And that's what happened in the Black Thursday, right? And so for us, it's really important that our solution is fully decentralized, and that all the validators, or essentially anyone who provide the data into the blockchain, have the economic guarantee at the protocol level to be a good actor, right? What that really means in layman term is that these people have something at stake, right? They have money like BAN tokens that are staked as part of the protocol itself. And if they actually collude to 51% attack, manipulate the data, these tokens will basically lose value, right? As nobody trusts BAN anymore, nobody use the data anymore, and they potentially stand to lose, hundreds and millions of dollars, right? So actually, at the protocol level, we are fully decentralized. We have over 50 to 100 validators globally, ranging from enterprise grade validators to a community member in Brazil or Japan, and that's something that we truly differentiate ourselves to a lot of our competitors right now.
Okay, so basically on Cosmos was a protocol that enabled for scaling, the cost, and also decentralization. Okay,
that's correct.
Okay, and Tascha, you also mentioned about was working with Brand Protocol and then see a lot of gap in the DeFi space, and that's how you found the Alpha Finance. Maybe can you elaborate a little bit more on what's the gap that you're seeing and how Alpha Finance is trying to address that gap?
Yeah, so to take a step back a little bit, actually, in the beginning, we were trying to pinch and hold on a particular area, a particular gap, and then trying to come up with an innovative solution that addressed that gap, right? And then what we realized is that, market moves really, really fast, and these gaps, move with the markets, right? As there are more new projects coming out, you will see more gaps. As there are new, solutions, there are going to be more problems that come up with those solutions. So comes down to the new model that we're using right now to build Alpha Finance Lab and also all the Alpha products, which is mainly that we're taking the two strategies to build Alpha. What that means is that the first strategy, of course, we would have to understand the problems in the space a lot. and also being able to come up with innovative solutions to address those problems. But that alone would not allow us to, deliver products that have people who want to use it, because we need to, on the second strategy, also need to understand that what's the market gap and what's the really unaddressed demand out there, because we can spend so much time, resources building very innovative solutions while there may not be demand out there in DeFi. So having all of these work together, that means that there are a number of differentiations that we have when compared to other DeFi projects, because of these two strategies that we do. The first differentiation is that we are building products that are not limited to a particular area. So that means that we are able to iterate a lot faster depending on the market, being able to capture the market demand and deliver the products that once from day one there's a product market fit. So I think that's really, really important. And once we achieve fast track to product market fit, as you have already seen from Alpha Homora, then we can grow from there. Like now we're already building Alpha Homora V2. We already spot another market gap from Alpha Homora, Alpha Homora, which leads us to building Alpha X. So it grows from there because of this strategy. The second differentiation, I think, comes down to our team. I'm sure every team in DeFi is really, really capable. But particularly for our team, in order for us to execute this strategy, understanding the market a lot, being able to come up with innovative solutions, we need to have a really strong team. And I would say, our team is one of the top. And to give an example and some numbers on that, so Nipun, who's the co-founder, he went to MIT, did double major in undergraduate with 4.9 out of 5, and then he got like 4 gold medals, 1 silver medal from International Mathematical Olympiad. So, he's the 3rd in the world. So we have all of these, human resources in our team that will be able to execute on the high cutting edge strategy that we come up with.
Okay.
I think,
so,
sorry,
yeah,
I can add a little bit to that as well. I think, because we have the opportunities to work with, of course, Tascha and, the Alpha team and many other DeFi projects. I think what really differentiates as well is that a lot of these Alpha products, are actually designed from the first principle, right? From what the customer demands are. And it's not just a simple clone of existing solution or, the food or the meme tokens, right? And I think that's getting to become more rarer and rarer in the industry. And I think that's something that really differentiates Alpha Homora and other products as well that are upcoming. And we're pretty excited about that as well.
Great. So definitely the speed and a strong team and talents, and using the first design principle is key. So in terms of strong team, do you think Thailand ecosystem is ready for new DeFi projects to come in the near future? Maybe you can start off with Pan for this one.
Yeah, I think, there is a lot more to be done still in Thailand, from the human capital side and from the university side too. So I think there are actually a number of university students who have already reached out to me on the side to work on internships, to work on research. So that's very good, but a lot of the efforts are coming from the students side. So not from university side, not from let's say accelerators or private firms, right? So I think we would need a lot more of those support to pretty much make sure that a lot more people know about DeFi, know what it is, and know how they could, get involved and collaborate and even contribute on our project or even, other projects. So I think there is still a lot of room to be done. So in terms of recruiting, how we are approaching is that we are recruiting locally as well, but also expanding to global recruiting. So we're talking to candidates from around the world, and then eventually we'll take some time to decentralize our team even further. So eventually it's going to be a global team of alpha contributors. So it may not only have to be in Thailand.
I see. And Kunman, do you have anything to add in terms of how to recruit a strong team and talents?
Yeah, for sure. I think as Tasha said, right, DeFi projects, or I mean, just blockchain industry as a whole, right, is really global by nature. So I don't think it's really constrained by any particular countries. So I do think that we actually gain access to this global talent pool, which is actually really good. But if we talk about local market, yes, I think I do agree that with the current resources in Thailand, yes, we may be slightly more limited, just simply because of the the nature of the countries, non-English speaking country, also the fact that we have less people, right? But luckily, I think the trend is that especially in DeFi and in blockchain, a lot of the team size is actually really small, right? And it's actually getting smaller. In 2017, we see projects raising hundreds of millions of dollars with like 50 people team, right? Whereas right now you have one person team, right? With Andrea, starting Yearn, you have like Hejik with a one person team again, and I think we start to see that trend of projects getting smaller. I would even say that going forward, optimal size team is probably less than 10 people, right? 10 smart engineers just getting together, hacking away some of these projects. And I think that's actually a really positive thing about this industry, right? The fact that we can scale our solution so much faster with so little, human resource. I think that's the beauty of this blockchain industry, and that's why for me, even if Thailand has less resource constraint, you can still find some of these, big talent who still don't know, which startup to work for or where to go, right? And they're starting to get more attracted to the blockchain industry, just like Nipun, as Tasha mentioned, right? So I think that's a good thing. And I think just to add more to that, I think two more factors when we talk about ecosystem, right? One is the regulation. And of course, I think in Thailand, we are seeing much more open regulation, much more friendly stance from the regulators here, as opposed to the SEC in the US. And I think that's really important for the development of this industry. It allows us to innovate products in a much faster way and safer way for everyone, right? Nobody want to get into trouble, of course, and we want to make sure everything is safe and secure, and at the same time, it doesn't inhibit all this innovation from happening. And I think that's one plus. The second one is, again, because of that friendly regulation, I think you see more companies like SCB. I think is the best example, right? Being much more open and friendly toward this industry. Whereas in other countries, or the firms may not even care about what blockchain is, what DeFi even is, right? Coming from, of course, centralized finance like SCB is, and I think that is a net positive for this industry, where we legitimize and really again bring more talent and resources into the industry itself.
Yeah. So you touched on a little bit on the regulation. So so SCB, as we are regulated financial institution, and we have worked with regulator quite a bit. So normally the regulation framework, how it works is it regulate intermediary, so the minimum. But in this world of DeFi project, there's actually everything is decentralized. There is no intermediary in the process. So if the regulator were to sit here and listen to this session, what would be your advice to them on how they should come up with a framework to kind of, I wouldn't want to say regulate DeFi space, but what should be their role, and how could they take action on this DeFi space, which I'm pretty sure they are thinking about how to, get involved in the way in which not gonna kill innovation, but at the same time, they also have to comply to a set of rules that's governed. What would be your advice?
Sure. I think again, I'm not a regulator by heart, so of course can't really speak on behalf of that. But I think for me, the most important thing is understand, right? Understand this industry first, and I think that's really important and quite underestimated to a lot of these people. Try to understand the innovation. Try to understand what these I guess DeFi have to offer, before putting sort of a cap on them, right? And I do understand the fact that they need to do KYC, they need to do AML, and I think us as a whole, as an industry, we are moving toward that, right? In terms of becoming a much more regulated entities. I mean, all the exchanges right now require KYC and AML, which again for me is a good thing, right? It prevents bad things from happening. I mean, all of us here working on DeFi, do not want bad things to happen, right? We just want to create some sort of innovation where we can create a more global financial system, right? And open access to everyone. And I think regulators will need to understand the nuances of these codes, of these decentralized technologies, and figure out where to sort of optimize balance. And I think there is a balance between that, right? Again, and I think a lot of us in this industry actually welcome that. And you can see that. I mean, in 2013, in the exchanges are really sketchy. We have to wire money to Ukraine. No KYC. Anyone can just buy Bitcoin. And now you can't really do that anymore, right? It's become much harder. I mean, the U.S. regulators have the tool to track all these addresses. If anything, I think blockchain is actually much more transparent than cash and any other means of transacting, right? And if government understand that and welcome those tools, then it actually will help them and make this actually easier for them in the long term.
Yeah, I think one thing to add is also, with the current users in DeFi, a lot of them already know the risks that are associated with it. So although there are high upsides through different, protocols, there are risks, right? So I think the important thing from the regulators' side is, instead of first jumping on to regulate DeFi projects, I think it would be more important to, educate the retail and those, general population, so they're well educated of these risks of, what's actually in DeFi. So when they want to transition to DeFi through, let's say, centralized exchange, which is regulated, then they are fully aware of what they're going into. So I think that would be, the first necessary step before they actually go into regulating DeFis without actually having the general population moving in yet, because the current people in DeFi already know the risks that are associated with using different protocols.
Okay. So yeah, I totally agree that DeFi space for a mass population, I think that is still very new, and they need to be educated before they kind of move into the space. And from the previous session, also there's a conversation around, a lot of the user right now in the DeFi space or the crypto trader per se. So it's the next step of the crypto trader. So if, let's just say for, crypto or DeFi newbies out there, what would be your advice if they want to get into the space? Where can they get all the content and study all this stuff and get themselves comfortable in, starting to move into this DeFi investment?
Yeah, I think there are three things that they can do. So first thing is, get on Twitter, follow a lot of DeFi projects, a lot of DeFi founders who share continuously their views about DeFi projects and DeFi landscape in general, right? So I think that's like the easy first step to the DeFi world. The second thing is also that these DeFi projects are very easily to get in touch through like Telegram, through Discord. So if you have any questions at all, it's not too hard to reach to the founder or reach to someone who can answer your question. So I think there are a lot of information out there, but it's not too hard to get the answers to. And third thing is also just try to use the safer protocols. So perhaps, the ones that have been around for a long time and also have done a lot of research on that, and you think it's, risk reward wise, it makes sense for you to, jump on and try. For instance, like say like Compound, which is more safer and has been around for a long time. So maybe you can start from the safer protocols in DeFi, and then you can get a sense of, oh, what's the gas fee like? The yields are real and all of those things, and then you can grow the portfolio from there.
Okay, good man. Anything you'd like to add for newbies out there?
Yeah, I think Tascha sort of nailed it all, right? But I think the most important part is, again, there's so much free educational material in this industry, right? Whether that be Twitter, whether that be Reddit, or so many free podcasts that are really, really valuable. So many free educational material, like on Masari. I subscribe to over 10 newsletter, ranging from crypto funds to like market aggregators like Masari's. Those are actually really, really helpful. Even for myself, who were quite deep in the industry, it's really difficult to keep track of all these new projects coming out, almost every week, right? If not every day. And so just to follow them, read them, understand them, and finally once you read them, then try it, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. Once you read it, try it out, get a feel of how the products work, and then I think you will suddenly get it, right? And I think that's probably the best advice for me as well, because I remember back then in 2015 when people started to introduce more this concept to me, it was really difficult to understand. Even as a me as a computer science background, right? It's really difficult to understand this concept of decentralized computer. Where's the code come from? Where's the money come from? How do you interact with these? Who do I talk to, right? And I think once you try it, you sort of get that light bulb moment, and that's really important for everyone who want to be in this industry.
Okay, great, thank you. And next question. So, can you share a little bit of the secret sauce, and maybe the key challenge or lesson learned on what does it take to build a successful DeFi project? Good man.
Sure. So I think number one is you need to have a global mindset, right? Again, you have to have a global mindset in the sense that the market is big and is open globally. So you shouldn't be constrained by any local market. Like, if we started off saying, we're going to start providing Oracle for Thai DApps, that would be really weird, right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs start with that mindset, unfortunately, simply because of, maybe they are being in another startup or, in other businesses. But the nature of crypto is, again, it's really global and the market is huge. So you want to tap into that from day one, right? So you need to have a global mindset. And you want to be laser focused on two things, right? One is the product market fit, right? You're actually solving something that people really want, right? And that will require you to iterate a lot. I mean, it's not going to be your first product that may, hit. I mean, it may, but the chances are really low, right? At Band, I think we pivoted almost 5 times, 5 solutions before we get to the version where a lot of our customers now are really happy in using our data, feeling really secure and in a cheaper manner, in a faster manner. So I think that goes through a really painful iteration process, but you want to do that fast because again the market is global, so that means the competition is also global, right? And you want to be fast on that, and that's really important, right? Product market fit. And then the second part is once you found that, you want to have a good go-to-market strategies, right? How do you roll that out to users around the world? How do you make sure people are aware of these products, right? And not constrained by this local market. And I think understanding crypto market is really, really important. And by understanding crypto market, meaning where people are, right? I mean, as simple as people are on Twitter. Right? How do I reach out to those people? When we hire people for marketing, again, we don't look for, hey, have you been optimized ad for book? Because obviously, we can't even do ad on this book related to blockchain. We want to hire people who understand memes. We want to understand people who hire people who understand crypto Twitters, right? And that's really rare to find. Right. So have that understanding of the market. How do you go to market? Meaning, again, influencers talking to the right investor base. I mean, in Asia, for example, we have a lot of I think us and Alpha have a lot of shared common investors who provide really valuable services, including giving us a good go-to-market strategies to the people in their local talent, right? And I think that's really important.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, a few things to add. So pretty much, like, I think a lot of the projects or even new teams, I think they would focus more on building the product, so like cracking the development of it. But I think what has to be done in parallel is pretty much the research part and understanding, what's in the market, because the model that we thought of last week may have changed according to the new protocol that come out, or some new features that the existing, industry player has already, added. So I think it requires simultaneous work in parallel. So pretty much that means that once you have the model set, you should not close the door to researching and still, keeping an eye on other projects, but pretty much it should be in parallel. And a second thing to add is that I think even though, crypto DeFi is a global market, I think, in my opinion, I think a lot of the firms, a lot of the community are still quite aggregated in the US. So what that means is that, of course, investors would really help. And that's why we talk to and also have investors from around the world for that reason. But also being able to tap into the US network through, let's say, partnering with firms or projects in the US, like what we did with Aave. I mean, not Aave's in London, or what we're doing with other firms in the US. I think that would be, the first step to tap into the very huge market of DeFi. So we're doing multiple of things in that front. And I think that's something that newer projects or even to build a successful projects would have to keep in mind that too.
Okay, so yep, the global mindset, the go-to-market strategy, having a network and also community is very important. And basically being able to find a product market fit and iterate quickly, that's also another key to build a successful DeFi project. So yeah, that's a good advice. I'm pretty sure that in this webinar, there are a lot of, young Thai DeFi passionate entrepreneur. I know there are many within SCVT Next who are listening to the session and look at you both as a role model. So that's a very good advice. And maybe next question is, can you share a little bit on the growth outlook for Band Protocol and Alpha Finance? So maybe start off with Band Protocol.
Yeah, sure. I think for us, right, we have reached a stage where we are now solely focused on adoption because we think we cracked the solution that worked pretty well across different blockchain. Right? And if you have been following us, we've been working quite closely with many projects around the world, as well as in many blockchain. Right. So recently, we partnered with Mirror, which is like a synthetic protocol on top of Terra, which is again on top of Cosmos. And then you have, we work with Phantom, we launched with Loop Ring, Venus protocol on Binance Smart Chain, D-Force on Ethereum, Akala on Polkadot, Icon, all these different chain, right? But we are just barely scratching the surface. I think there are a lot more work to be done because when we work with these companies, we work quite closely with them in launching their products as well as our price feed that support them, right? And because if you think about our price feed again, we are trying to secure their applications, and that means it's really important, that we get it 100% right? You cannot even get it 99% right. You need to get it 100% right. And so for us, we focus a lot on working really closely with these projects, spend a lot of time looking at their code, providing our support, as well as optimize for securities across the different companies. So over the next few months, we're going to be driving a lot of growth with these companies because to us, if they become successful, then Band is also become really successful as well as we secure a lot more values through these companies, right? So we've been optimizing securities, optimizing, for speed, optimizing for cost, right? I think that's probably more on the tech side of things. What we really look forward to as well next year is actually working more with traditional enterprises, right? So recently we joined the Open API initiative, along with Google, along with Bloomberg, IBM, Oracle, all these big companies, to sort of define the common API across different companies. And what that means is essentially how people talk to each other, right? How different companies relay data toward each other in a common standard, so that's easier to scale. And what we are looking forward to is to work with these companies and bring their data into blockchain application, enable more use cases, so that DeFi can finally enter more mainstream with again security in mind. So yeah, pretty excited about those development. It's going to take more time, but that's something that we are really excited about here at Band, at least from the technical perspective as well as from the business perspective. And again, lastly is communities, right? And we have been building quite a big community around the world. And next year, I think we're going to put even more emphasis in terms of hopefully after COVID, then we can do more roadshows, we can do more community building, talking to more projects around the world. And it's exciting to see how DeFi can evolve in 2021.
Okay. And Kunpanpan?
Yeah, so, as I was sharing earlier, that Alpha is a DeFi lab. So we're building a number of DeFi products, right? Each product will capture its own market gap, its own problem, have its own users. But all the Alpha products will still work together and bring synergy together to pretty much achieve the overarching theme that I mentioned earlier of maximizing returns and minimizing downside exposure, right? So having that mission in mind, you would already see there's a lot of room to grow, a lot of things to be done still for Alpha. We have only one product on the market. We have more coming up. So what's coming up is, Alpha X is coming up, which is a new product in the perpetual swap area. It is a different area as Alpha Homora. but it actually brings a lot of synergy to Alpha Homura users too, because there are some risks associated with taking leverage. So you will be able to minimize those risks through Alpha X. So pretty much when we launch Alpha X, it will bring benefits to Alpha Homura users by helping them to put down the downside risk while they can still maximize the returns using Alpha Homura. So that's coming up. And as I shared earlier, that the more products we build, you would see more room to grow, more market gaps to fill, right? So now that we have launched Alpha Homura for 2 months, we have already spotted a number of market gaps that Alpha Homura itself can grow even further and capture. So we are building Alpha Homura V2 now, and that is coming up. So I think it would, it's a pretty fast timeline. Typically, projects take, let's say, a lot of number of months or even years to reach a state of V2. But for Alpha Finance Lab, we have already reached that stage, I think, in relation to how fast we work and how fast the market moves. So these two are coming up. And we are also already brainstorming the third product, which I cannot share yet, but it brings a lot of synergy to all these Alpha ecosystem and still capture its own market. So we're pretty excited about that. And once we crack the math, which is on Nipun's side, we're going to share more of the model that we have thought of.
Yep. Okay. Seems like there's a lot on your plate right now. So maybe one additional question that is, are you still looking for a lot of talents to join the team? And if so, what would be kind of the requirements for young entrepreneur out there who want to get in and basically become a DeFi entrepreneur? Is there kind of what kind of requirement and expectation do you have for talents who may want to join either Alpha or BAM protocol?
Sure, I can start. So yes, we are recruiting. So if you are interested, please reach out to me directly. On Twitter, it's fine. TASCHA _PAN. So I think the requirements that we're looking for are a number of things. So if you are a developer, of course, the skills have to be top notch. As Soravis and Kunman was mentioning, that we operate in a very lean team, in crypto and DeFi projects in general. That means that each person takes a lot of responsibility and high stake, because these are real money. So one line of mistake can cause a lot of money. So each, even a junior developer has to have a lot of pretty solid skill. So that's on the technical side, right? But additional to that, it would also require, fast learning skills because the nature of DeFi market, it's moved really fast. So what that means is that not only being able to understand the market fast, but also being able to take on a task that may not have clear requirements and still be able to crack that based on a short time frame. So I think that's the people that we're looking for, and we are, of course, even though it's high responsibility and pretty intense job, I think it would be pretty satisfying for those who are looking to learn a lot of DeFi and understand more about DeFi landscape, because this is how you learn about DeFi, by working in it.
Yep, I think same here. Of course, we are hiring, always hiring, for any good talent, right? We can always have more hands. I think in terms of criteria, number one thing, yeah, apart from I think the technical shot, I think that's always a given, right? But for us, what is also important is curiosities, right? The abilities to poll questions, abilities to go on Twitter, in their free time, to really and have a passion for this industry, right? And I think that's really, really important. If you work in DeFi, or you want to come into this, you cannot work 9 to 5 or even like a regular startup, right? At BAN, we work really, really hard, but we also enjoy it, right? We work really hard. I mean, our hours is really bad. I mean, we go in at 10, we leave at midnight or even 2 or 3 a.m. Regularly, right? On the weekend, quite common to see some of our engineers just come to our office just to work on something, right? And I think that is something that is really important because it really shows that you really care about this industry. You really care about the work that you do so much that it doesn't really it doesn't, I guess, translate to work as much, right? I mean, for us or for me myself, I don't feel like coming to work when I come to bed, right? I feel like, this is something that I really want to work in. This is something I'm really passionate in. And I think that is something that we really, really look forward to in some of our engineers, no matter how junior, and because that allows them to develop their skill much faster, and it allows them to, understanding the industry in a much deeper level than just simply looking at it as a coding exercise.
Okay. Yeah. So we have about less than 5 minutes left. So maybe one last question before we conclude the session. So so some people are saying that DeFi is currently in the state of the hype. So any thought or comment on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I can comment on that. Yeah, of course. With every new technologies, right? Whether that be blockchain, AI, all this buzzword, things always go through, period of, too much hype and then too much, I guess, bull market and bear market, right? And that's particularly true for blockchain again, because, the nature of the tokens being really liquid, the nature of the Twitter being really reflexive market, right? And I think it's okay. I mean, it's okay to be overhyped in some of these DeFi or some of these trends, because again, it attract more talent into the industry. And yes, we may get ahead of ourselves, but once we establish a bigger base with a better talent, eventually, the fundamental or the usages will catch up to that value, right? If you don't have that hype to begin with, it's going to be really difficult to bootstrap any of this, right? And you talk about asking people to work on internet money in the last couple of years. It was a difficult sell, right? It was really difficult for us to attract any talent. But now, because so many people are talking about it, we're getting much more resumes, we're getting much more attentions, more capital flowing into the industry, again, leading to more innovation. And that's sort of a snowball effect, and lead to better things in the future, right? In the long term. So yes, in the short term, more volatilities, but in the long term, if you zoom out, graph should always go up and to the right. And that's something that we hope to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there are a number of good things that come out with, more people getting aware of it for sure. And even from all these hype, if you were to say that, I think we also not only get general people, but also like companies like SCB10X, or even, more of the governmental departments would now want to find a way to work with us, right? So I think that is a good trajectory to the more sustainable long-term growth. However, of course, there are downsides. So make sure that the investors and traders really understand what they're trading, what they're using, and it's not something that they are not aware of. So I think there are still a lot of projects that have no products yet and only have tokens. So yeah, need to do a lot of research on that too.
Yeah. So I completely agree that I mean, we see the age of the ICO in the 2018, and then where there's no value to the coin, and then in 2020 we see value starting to arise in all these projects. So I do agree that it's an evolution, and in the end, it will reach adoption. The question is then how big is the community and at what pace, which it seems that right now everything is speed up. So I do look forward to see how DeFi projects going to reshape the way how, financial service is working, fundamentally. And it's a very exciting time. And I wish I was, 10 years younger. So I can maybe, start earlier in this kind of space anyway. But it's good to see. Anyway, it's good to see, both of you, and you both are definitely inspiration for many of the entrepreneurs out there, especially the Thai people. That Thai people can really do something that at a global scale. And for the audience, Alpha Finance is currently ranked 17th from my last check in DeFi Pulse. So they launched just recently in October. So congratulations. I look forward to see you on that table and moving up into the higher rank. And yeah, so that pretty much concludes the session today, right on time. So thank you very much for all the audience and also the distinguished speakers, Kun Man and also Kun Fun Fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. guys.